In times of crisis, most, if not every system, breaks down. But the one system that is really resilient is the family. There are many researchers like Tiani, like Hill, people like Bronfenbrenner. They have all done work, and from their findings, it is the family which plays a crucial role in times of crisis to keep things going when everything else breaks down. It is therefore imperative that if we want to reach out to people in emergency, to be able to respond in a timely manner, efficiently and effectively, I think the best place to start is the home, working with families. I would like to show you how LABE is now using the home learning center approach to leverage families to provide early childhood development in emergencies. I welcome you to come along with me on this journey. My name is Nairuba Joyce. I am the Communications Manager LABE, and I will be your guide. I would like to tell you a bit about LABE. LABE is Literacy and Adult Basic Education. It's a non-government organization, but indigenous. And LABE's history is closely intertwined with emergencies. In 1989, there was a group of students who were studying adult education. So they wanted to provide literacy sessions for the adults. During that time, the people who were around who needed such services were actually majorly refugees from Rwanda and Sudan. So from the word go, LABE was starting its journey working with people in emergencies. Later on, when LABE expanded its work, somehow it ended up in the Greater North. At that time, there were wars and conflict with the Lord's Resistance Army, and so there were a lot of people who were internally displaced. It also meant that these people were in emergencies and they urgently needed education response, and LABE found itself in that space. We are currently working in 6 refugee hosting and conflict-affected districts with an intention of promoting literacy practices, increasing access and utilization of information, particularly amongst women and children, so that they are able to effectively demand and protect both their individual rights, but also their wider rights. We are ultimately hoping that we can contribute to a vision of a literate, well-informed and prosperous society that is able to participate fully in its own development. LABE's role in ECDiE in communities which are in emergency situations is to enhance inclusive access to ECDiE services. As a parent myself, I know that there is no way you're going to get to my child if you don't bring the parent on board. 2 things had to be done. 1, if you want the parents to participate in emergencies and feel comfortable and confident that their children are secure, then you have to bring the services as close to them as possible. Number 2, they are parents. They have reproductive roles, they have productive roles and community roles. If you still want them to engage themselves in the reproductive roles, you've got to cater for the productive roles. I am not going to create time to look out for what is my child learning, how are they learning, can I play with them, when the pocket is not smiling. So we used a whole family intergenerational learning approach, which we fondly call FABE. FABE is an approach which brings together early childhood development, primary school education, but also adult learning. Family members, different family members, will learn for themselves, but they will also be involved in each other's learning. We then literally brought the school into the family. 2 locations we call home learning centers. Home learning centers don't have to be fancy, as you can see. They are simply a safe, accessible space within the homestead that is literally volunteered by one of the members in the community. And then this space is set up by different families and run by those families with a representation of a team of people we call a Home Learning Center Management Committee. This is done so that the people themselves are then in position to sustain what is going on. To add on that, we then went ahead and came up with a Home Learning Center Savings and Loans, association. This is kind of like the lifeline of the Home Learning Center. To run activities at the Home Learning Center, you need to have resources, you need to have funds. But when the Home Learning Center is at play, the burden is not on one single parent to look for the funds. It has been distributed among a number of parents. As they do the savings, they are also able to have some money which will run activities at the Home Learning Centers. One of the things that we do is to use what we call a 3-strand home-based ECDiE model. The parent-led is one of them. We work with parents to support them to build their muscle to be able to take on the role of facilitating early childhood development for their own children. The parents will also participate in the savings and loans activities I told you about, but we integrate within those savings sessions, parenting sessions, livelihoods-led sessions, and financial literacy sessions. At the end of the day, the parents are learning for themselves, but they are also learning so that they are able to support not only single children in terms of ECDiE, but also they are strengthening the financial muscle of these parents, so they are in position to support their families. In these sessions, the parents are trained in positive parenting practices. They are trained in child care, and then they are also trained to be able to start up micro enterprises. We make sure that we are working with community resource persons like the VHTs, but we also find business mentors, people who have already set up small businesses which are working, to hold hands of the other parents who are also starting. One parenting practice that I wanted to specifically pull out is what we call shared book reading. So we work with community members, we work with teachers, so they are able to produce local language picture storybooks. The picture storybook is language blind. Even if I am not very literate, I am able to read and interpret the pictures. But even then, even if it has a bit of text, we have children who are already in primary school, we have children who are already in secondary school. So they come on board to support this process. When we make the books, we then stock what we call a Home Learning Center library. It's not a big space with a lot of books. Sometimes it's just a box. Sometimes it's just a book board. But it has a number of books in there written by the parents themselves. It has a number of games which we create from these books, storybooks, so that apart from just being a book to support the family to relate and interact, it's a book that is helping to prepare the children in terms of their literacy skills. It's games that can be used as therapy for the whole family. As you're playing, you just steaming off some stress. You're having some fun with your family. In some cases, the parents are encouraged to come to the Home Learning Center and borrow these books and games. In other cases, the older children in the families are encouraged to come in and borrow these books. Sometimes we write the box of books to the community, to the different Home Learning Centers, and then the older siblings will come out and borrow these books. I will take you back to the Home Learning Center, the space itself. At the Home Learning Center, we also have what we call the child care corners, or just supervised play centers. It is the place where the 0 to 3-year-old children will come in. They will learn to socialize with others outside of their family members. They will eat, they will play, they will have fun and listen to stories as told by other parents who volunteer there. Basically, they are given a space to be children. The people who supervise these places are parents themselves, and we call them care parents because they are not just mothers, but even fathers. The second strand is the parent educator led. one of the parents is vetted by the other parents. We get this parent, train them, and equip them with what we call a home-based ECDiE toolkit. The toolkit is based on the National Learning Framework of Uganda. It is something that has already been approved by the National Curriculum Development Center, and 2 parents are then facilitating these multi-age groups. They use mother tongue as the language of instruction, their local mother tongue. That is why we work with the parents themselves. In this toolkit, we have also started to integrate what we call socio-emotional learning. We are working with a partner, Sesame, to help bring on board these missing components. Much as the national framework, the learning framework, talks about socio-emotional learning, there are no demarcated activities that the children have to go through. So we are working with this partner to bring on board the socio-emotional learning. An important aspect when it comes to emergencies, you want people to be able to relate with each other, much as they are coming from different countries. They are still neighbors. So this socio-emotional learning component helps these different people from different spaces to be able to interact with each other without conflict. The third strand of the home-based ECDiE is the peer-led strand. In this strand, we are using a child-to-child approach, and we are utilizing local games and play. Older children who are in primary school, and we called them young facilitators, are then trained and supported with a pack of learning activities for them to be able to integrate their local games that they do with their siblings. You will agree with me that in our African setting, most of the time younger children are left in the care of their older siblings. It's a matter of utilizing this resource which is already there, to streamline things a little bit, to say don't just play far, but you play with a purpose, with an intention to pass on something to your younger sibling. And as we do this, the older siblings who are in primary school are also acquiring and sharpening their communication, their leadership skills, their planning, emotional management, and so many other life skills. Because they are now in charge of thinking about what are we going to play and how do I integrate some learning in here. They are in charge of mobilizing the younger ones so that they are not fighting and beating each other. What you see there is just a summary of when I talk about home-based ECDiE at a home learning center, what do we mean? We are talking about a non-formal, low-cost approach that can be used to reach out to these people in emergency situations. We are talking about using local resources. We are talking about using spaces within the homes that are there already. You don't have to be thinking about big structures before you can start the services. We are talking about an approach that is ensuring that each of the family members get some basic learning. We are talking about an approach that is building on the family's strength and capacities and using the assets that you already have rather than deficiencies. We are not looking at the half-empty glass. We are looking at the half-full glass. What is it that you already have? Do you have local stories? Do you have games? Do you have timber? What do you have around that we can use to make sure that the children and the other adults are getting some kind of learning? We are talking about self-help and ownership so that even if we leave, the home learning center can continue to function. Even if you go back to your own country, you have already picked up skills that you're able to start something and be able to continue with the learning. It doesn't all come on a silver platter. There are a number of obstacles that we always face, but we don't give up. We try and solve these challenges. One of the challenges, the biggest one, is what they call the iron triangle. It's an issue of access, quality, and cost. Our intention is to make sure that as many people as possible can access these services, as many children as possible. But when you say bring as many of them, you're running a risk of getting a bit low on the quality. And when you say you want to increase the quality, it means maybe the people have to pay a little more to be able to get the quality. So it means you're affecting what you call the low cost. Now, to address this issue, we are working in partnership with others. We know that you cannot reach everyone and do everything single-handedly. So we bring on board different partners who have different components that can actually fit within the home-based ECD model. So if we are working on access, we bring on board Sesame to work on the quality, to bring on board social-emotional learning, so quality is a bit improved. And we work with the local government in the environment to make sure that the district officials are also visiting these home learning centers, that any service which comes at the district can get to these home learning centers through the government itself. The other big challenge that we have is what they call the academic-oriented ECD versus what we are advocating for, the non-formal play-based provisions. When you talk to parents about ECD, everybody thinks it's about the brain, it's about cognitive, it's about children doing examinations and being there at a certain time. We are talking about non-formal ECD, and we are talking about learning through play. Many parents will say, they are just playing, that is a wastage of time. I want spaces where the children are doing exams and they are getting marks and 90 out of 100. So we have that challenge. How do you show everybody, including us, the elite, that play-based learning, play-based ECD is actually a provision of ECD that is equivalent to the other academic-oriented ECD? To do that, we are doing a lot of community advocacy. We are doing a lot of working with the government and the media to engage them to see what is happening at the home learning centers, to talk to the parents of these children who have actually benefited from the home learning centers. As we speak, we have graduates from the home learning centers who have become younger facilitators and others who have joined secondary school, and they are happy to come back to the home learning centers to encourage the other parents to continue with the home learning centers. There is a problem with transition. The home learning centers are within the homesteads, within where people are. But when it comes to primary school, then the primary schools are at a distance. So what happens then when the children are ready to go to primary school? They cannot yet walk those long distances. So what do? We are starting to create homeschool links. So the schools are aware of where the home learning centers are and they are interacting, and they can be able to send teachers into the home learning centers to support what is going on there. The other big problem is, how do you use self-help in emergency situations? You're talking about parents bringing in resources, contributing to savings, but how do you do that in emergency situations? We have stuck to the gun and we have continued to work with the asset-based community development approach so that we are able to sustain our efforts. We talk with partners who are also in the same spaces where we work to try and encourage the communities to take on things themselves. Member offerings. To the MMA members, we are ready to share the tools that we have. We are ready to share the kits that we have made, the home-based ECD kit, the peer-led ECD pack. We have parenting education resource books that we can share. We have local language stories that we have done. We have videos in local language that we can use. Most importantly, we have tried and tested the home learning center. We know how it begins, we know how it runs. So that is a resource for the members to tap into so we can share all our ideas and all our experiences. In terms of needs and opportunities, we would like to work closely with the MMA members to be able to document the impact of non-formal ECD through a whole family learning approach and then disseminate it widely. So other people can learn from it, but we also get many more people to support it as an approach that works. We would like to enrich the materials and trainings that we do to cater for the children who are differently abled who come to the home learning centers. At the moment, we use diagnostic camps to reach out to them, to test what is going on with their physical mobility, with their learning needs, so that they are able to also encourage their parents to bring them to the home learning centers to learn. But we still need to do more when it comes to the park, so that they have real activities that can address their learning needs. We have learned a number of lessons, and some of them I've been mentioning as we go along. But we also have learned that it is quite difficult to work towards quality non-formal ECD through home learning centers. So it is a gradual process. It is not something you do in one day and you're like, we have done it. It's something that we have learned over time, the number of lessons to take forward. So it's really a gradual process. It is also a very difficult issue to address access and quality issues simultaneously. If you want to deal with quality, you're going to stamp out the access. It is going to become exclusive to other children. If you're going to deal with inclusivity, get everybody on board, then you're going to have to struggle with some quality issues. That is also a lesson that we have learned over time. And lastly, we know that government buy-in is very, very essential if you want to address issues of acceptance of the home learning center approach. People don't think it works, but when the government buys in, then the government holds hands with you and they are able to support your efforts to let the entire community and country know that the home learning center approach works. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for the time that you have given to listen to our experiences as LABE using the home learning center approach to make sure that children in emergency situations, contexts, are also able to access early childhood development. My friends, say bye.